Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Rosie Sheldon, and it's great to see everybody here. I was just letting the last few people in, so let's get going. I work for TSG Training, and I'll be presenting the webinar today, and I trust you can all hear me. Just a bit of housekeeping first. During the presentation, you'll all be on mute. And if you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat box for the Q&A session at the end. I'll be talking to you today about the Selenium Tester Foundation course. And if you want to know more, please do contact us. The next course is quite soon, on July the 18th. The webinar is being recorded and it'll go straight onto our website shown here, tsg-training.co.uk. Today, I'll be talking specifically about the Selenium Tester Foundation course and giving a demonstration for people who have never seen Selenium WebDriver scripts before. So to start, why are people so interested in it? What are the advantages? Well, running automated tests is more efficient than exercising them manually. This both reduces the time needed for test execution and/or allows us to run more tests per build. And it increases the frequency that some tests can be run. And it frees up manual testers to run more interesting and complex manual tests, like exploratory tests. And it reduces mistakes, of course, by bored or maybe distracted manual testers, especially when repeating regression tests. And automation means also we can execute tests earlier in the process. For instance, running automated tests on the continuous build machine, both giving quicker feedback on system quality and removing defects from the software earlier. And of course, it means we can execute tests outside of normal business hours and increase confidence in the build by doing more testing. But there's disadvantages too, like increases in costs, including the high startup costs and delays and costs and mistakes from testers as they learn new technologies. And occasionally the complexity just becomes overwhelming. And the test team, well, they need software development skills or others on hand to help. And there can be considerable and ongoing maintenance needed for the tools, the environment, and the test assets. And automation requires all of the processes and the disciplines of the software development. And sometimes concentrating on automation makes testers lose sight of testing as a risk management activity. And you might be aware of false positives, and these occur when the automation failures are not the soot failures, but are due to defects in the automation. And without clever programming in the automated tests, tools are literal-minded and stupid, but testers are not. However, you need to remember that not all advantages are obtainable in all projects, nor do all the disadvantages occur in all projects either. But by paying close attention to detail and using good engineering processes, you can increase the likelihood of the good outcomes and minimize the bad outcomes that might result from an automation project. So, if those are the advantages and disadvantages, and you've not been put off by the disadvantages, what are your test objectives? To be able to justify the test automation in your context, you have to line up the automation objectives with the test objectives. And these themselves should, of course, reflect the business objectives. And as automation is a cost, you need to demonstrate that there will be a benefit to introducing automation. These common test objectives can all be achieved via automation and flow directly from the advantages on the previous slides. And many of these, well, Maybe some of these are included in your test objectives, in which case test automation should be a consideration. But in addition to the advantages and disadvantages, you might also have technical constraints or managerial constraints. And all these need to be taken into account, because one thing is true: no organisation has ever accidentally built a successful automation project. So who can use Selenium WebDriver? To understand test automation, you must understand what a manual test script is and how it's used. And as a bare minimum, a manual test script contains an abstract task to do. It doesn't need to be changed when the actual software changes. For example, a task might be add record to database. This is an abstract idea. No matter what version of the database, this abstract task can be performed, assuming a manual tester has the domain knowledge to translate it into concrete actions. Then the tester needs to know what data to use for the task. And finally, the tester has to know what behavior to expect. And this is the crux of the difference between an automated script and a manual script. The manual test script only has value in the hands of an experienced manual tester. The manual tester gives the script context from their experience and make a judgment on reasonableness. The test script writer could add lines into the manual script to help the test executor understand how to deal with an issue, but mostly we don't, because the manual testers are human with intelligence, with experience, and that enables them to figure out the issue on their own, and with the intelligence to know when to ask for help from an expert. A knowledgeable manual tester will be able to answer the issues that arise, the how long and what if questions like these. So who can use Selenium WebDriver? Somebody who understands manual test scripts. Someone who understands all the things a manual test script does when executing a manual test script. Remember, context and reasonableness. But now the automated test script has to be able to do the same. An automated script, if simply recorded, has a limited understanding of what it can do if something other than the expected occurs. It has only one response to the unexpected. It throws an error. It needs added intelligence. And this is what the test engineer does, has to build into the automated test script via programming. This is why automation now works better. The intelligence can be added to the automation script. And by programming, we can capture the thought processes that a manual tester has, the context and the reasonableness of the result, and start making automation add more value. Often, it completes the test rather than it failing early, adding intelligence. A business case needs to be made before and while we automate our tests. Will the overall cost of automating this test be returned by being able to run it X times over the next Y months? Sometimes we work out the answer and it's no. Some manual tests will remain because there's no positive return on investment for automating them. Some manual tests simply can't be automated because you need the thought process of the manual tester, and that's essential to the success of the test, like exploratory testing or fault attacks and other. Some types of manual testing are still required for the success of a testing effort. So, when can Selenium WebDriver be successfully used? When you want to execute functional web application tests. Selenium WebDriver is a framework allowing test scripts to control web browsers, but success is not accidental. The chances of success are increased with these factors. And these don't happen by chance. The ability to automate often rests on the testability of the system under test. The success or failure of automation might hinge on getting special or private interfaces, often called hooks, from the developers of the system. And there's different soot interface levels that we can automate at, and Selenium works at the UI level. And this syllabus includes tips and techniques to reduce the brittleness and enhance the usability of while testing at this level. Selenium WebDriver is a programming interface for developing scripts and can be used with many different programming languages like C# and Java, JavaScript, Perl, Ruby, Objective-C, and this course that I run uses Python. And many of these other languages, they will have the open source testing frameworks available too. So what are the key disciplines covered by the course? Well, we start off on chapter 1 with the automation basics, and I've just covered some of these. And then we move on to talking about the automation of web applications, and we look at HTML and XML and XPath and CSS. And then we start using Selenium WebDriver itself, and we talk a lot about logging and the importance of logging, and then creating scripts, locating elements, capturing screenshots, interacting with the elements. And finally, we talk about the importance, the criticality of actually creating maintainable test scripts. So that's an overview of the disciplines covered by the course. I'm now going to show you a test script, and then I'm going to execute it. So here is a test script. So I promised you a mini script writing lesson. Here's one I prepared earlier. And the script, as you can see, it's code, and all code should be commented. The comments are ignored when the script is executed, but they give us information about the script. And it's good practice to comment code appropriately, not too much and not too little. We need WebDriver, logging and sleep, so they all need to be imported, ready for later. And this defines the test. This test is called test webinar hello world, and I'm going to execute this script using PyTest, which is a Python testing framework. And PyTest will search, and it runs all the test cases with the extension .py in the current directory and the child subdirectories that either start or finish with test. And you can log whatever detail you need to have confidence that the test is running successfully, and if it's not, so that you can work out which step has failed. And logging provides critical information for debugging, and there's logging throughout this script. The WebDriver interface is the starting point for all uses of the Selenium WebDriver API. Instantiating the WebDriver interface is the first step in writing your Selenium test, and this instantiates a browser driver. The next step is to navigate to the web page that you want to actually test, and you do this by invoking the get method on the driver variable. And the get method takes the URL of the web page that you want to use as an argument. And next we have the assertion, and this is where the test has the expected result. The assertion should evaluate to true, in which case the test passes, or false, where the test has failed. If the test has failed, you provide a message here. And in order to slow the test down for the purposes of today, I've included a sleep so that the web page is displayed long enough for us to see it. And finally, quit. This closes the browser and the driver, whereas close would just close the browser. Okay, so I'm now going to run this script on a virtual machine. I've already opened a terminal window, and in a moment I'm going to execute a script by typing in PyTest, but actually I'm also going to create a report, and it's going to execute the test you've just seen, and after a few seconds the test case is going to open a browser, and the python.org page is hopefully going to open, and then do you remember the 5-second sleep? So we'll see it, then the browser is going to close, and we'll get a message. So let me just move this over for you. Right, here we have the terminal. So I'm going to type in to get the report. Oh, I've got to change directory first. So I've got to go into the exercises directory, and I've put the script in chapter 1. And there it is. Hello world. So now I'm going to run that test and run it so we get a report out too. Oh, I've done a typo. Well, I tell you what, I'm just going to run the test first, and then I'll sort out the typo in a moment. So this has picked up the one test, because I just typed in PyTest. And there it is, it's finished. So it happened that quickly. Hopefully, though, you still got a chance to see it. So here from the logging, it mirrors the script you saw earlier. Right, I'm going to try typing it in again to get this report out. Not to worry, you'll be glad to know I tried it earlier and I've saved the result. So I can show you that it's earlier because it's got a different time on it. I don't know if you can see inside my Oracle box. It's 6:50 at the moment because it's got the wrong time on it. But here, from earlier, I ran exactly this, and I ran it at my time. As you can see, it was 03:34. So here is a report, and we can look at the results, and there they are. That's the captured log call. Okay. So we can run the test. The report's kept. Where is the report kept? Well, the report goes here in the folders. So here's the folder, and there's the report, and there's the script that I've just run. So that was the folder I navigated to. There's the script, and that's what I showed you on the slides earlier, and the report's in there too. So let me move that back over. I shall just minimize it. And there's a summary for you. So, suitable to automate functional web application tests in any life cycle. And I showed you that there are 4 different chapters highlighting the 4 different disciplines covered in the Selenium Tester Foundation course. And we learn to write scripts in the course. They can be written by testers, and we talk about how we can make them more maintainable. So come and find out if you can utilize it in your workplace. The course is one of many that TSG Training provide. Here are some others that might be of interest to you. But while you peruse those, please have a think if you've got any questions and put them in chat if you have, and I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you have a good day.